Hey, Beth, it is so great to meet you, and welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I think what you've been doing over the last decade at Budget Bytes is truly phenomenal. I've experienced it myself and using your recipes. I actually discovered you on a podcast you're on with Bigger Pockets Money
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
a
Cool.
few weeks back. So just love what you're doing. And today we're going to be talking about all about marketing. And like I mentioned before, I think you're downplaying a little bit how much you truly are a marketing genius and what you've been able to create with your online community. And to start us off today, I'd love for you just to share a little bit about Budget Bytes and what's it all about.
Sure. So Budget Bytes is a website. It's a recipe website that helps people learn how to cook on a budget. And it started as something I was just doing for myself. And this was back in like 2009.
Mhm.
And because I was having budget issues myself and I didn't want to sacrifice the quality of my food because I knew that would probably cost me more in the long run. And it's just been going strong ever since because I think there are a lot of other people in this country and the world that need that type of information, just like I did. And so I've just pretty much dedicated the last decade plus to this project. Yeah.
What does your day-to-day look like running the company?
Um, it's a little bit different day to day. So generally I have two different types of days. So I'll have some days where I'm in the studio doing recipes, cooking,
Mhm.
photographing, video, making reels, things like that. And then other days are more like office days where I'll be catching up on writing blog posts, editing photos, doing admin work, all that sort of thing. But every day there's always a little bit of like email, answering comments, just basic housekeeping
Mhm.
type work.
I've always been amazed at people who can create recipes. And I say that because if I go to Trader Joe's, I'm probably just going to get the frozen food and heat it up.
Yeah.
So for you as the one who's creating these recipes, what does your creative process look like to come up with these originals?
So it's like anything that's creative where it's a muscle that the more you exercise, the easier it becomes for you to create something. So a lot of times I'll start with what am I craving that week, or maybe
Mhm.
what's on sale that week, that ingredient. And what are some interesting flavors or ways to prepare it that I haven't done before? Or I might be taking a recipe that I made in the past that I really liked and trying to rework that with new flavors or new ingredients. That's a really easy way to come up with something new. Sometimes I'm trying to recreate something I had in a restaurant, or maybe something that I noticed in the frozen aisle, those frozen meals that you said you'd like to get from Trader Joe's. Like, can I make that at home for cheaper? Let me see if I can do it.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different sources of inspiration. But I can definitely say that even after 13 years, I have never run out of ideas and I still have a long list of things I want to try.
Do you ever do market research with your community and maybe see what they're saying in comments, or maybe even search on Twitter of what might be trending or just conversations people are having?
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge part of it. So even after all this time, I still go through all of the comments on the blog and on all the social media channels every single day myself. A lot of people outsource that, and I've tried it before, but I found that when I do that, I become so disconnected from the audience that I don't know what the audience needs or
Mhm.
wants. So just by reading those comments really quickly every single day, I can stay on the pulse of what people like, what they're looking for, what struggles they're having that I could hopefully provide an answer for. So that's such a really, really important piece of the puzzle,
Mhm.
just making sure that you're interacting every single day with that community.
Mhm. So I'm going to give my answer to this question, then I'd love to hear yours. So my opinion on why you're a great marketer, if you don't realize it, is because of that answer you just gave, because you're directly connected to your community and you really understand their pain points, their hopes, their frustrations, whatever it is, and that in turn can really influence the content you're creating. But in your opinion, what would you say makes a good marketer?
Yeah, I actually agree with you 100%. So I think it requires a very deep understanding of your audience and of the current state of the world even. So in addition to really listening to the audience to try to find out what they like, what they need, and what they're looking for, I have to take into consideration what is happening every single day. Is, is the weather bad? Is, there a grocery shortage? You need to stay on top of the emotional state and the financial state in our case, because it's all about budget of the audience and the people around you. So you can really just like really home in on the exact, I don't know how to say it, but their exact needs and wants, and just meet them where they're at, basically.
So I have a question then. If we flash back in time, March of 2020, when we thought all grocery stores might be shutting down, we were all stocking up just on random stuff. I'm just curious, what was your content like right when the pandemic hit?
So at first I was just kind of frozen and just in shock myself. So I wasn't able to create a lot of content. So I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was in an emotional state and I couldn't really focus on work. But once I kind of like got myself together, I started creating some emergency content. So I created I think it is either 1 week or 2 week. I think it was a 2-week meal plan that I gave away to the audience for free. And it used mostly pantry staples. So things that don't go bad quickly. So canned good, dry goods, the vegetables that, can stay good in your pantry for a long time, like potatoes and onions and things like that, because I really wanted to serve our community, because I knew that I had knowledge that would help people get through this time. So I created that. And then I also ended up creating another blog post that was just like a huge, almost like an index of recipes on our website that use those pantry staple items, just so that when people did get their groceries, they could, make stuff using them without having to go back to the store for a couple of weeks, because at that time we were all afraid to leave the house.
What's the conversation been like in the last handful of months with rising prices and inflation? Is your community freaking out right now? And how are you in the same way being a resource for them?
Yeah, everyone's definitely having a hard time. And I think everyone's a little bit in shock. So I'm trying to come up with recipes that are just really, really focused on the super inexpensive ingredients. So I've been using canned beans a lot. I've got one coming up probably in the next week. That's literally just like cabbage, rice, and beef, and like a little bit of ground beef. And, it's really simple and it's really good. And I know that a lot of people can make that and fill their bellies without a lot of money. I've been doing some research on recipes from the Great Depression. I got this really cool cookbook.
Oh, that'd be such a fun,
yeah.
Well, in a weird way, that'd be a fun like date night to have.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've done a couple TikToks and reels about it. The recipes are definitely not usable for us today in their original state, but they have inspired me. So it's been interesting.
I didn't realize actually you were on TikTok. I didn't find that connection point. Tell me a little bit about why you decided to join TikTok and what type of content are you posting?
Yeah, so I really did not have any intention of joining another social media network, because
that was mine with TikTok too at the start of this year.
Yeah, I was so burnt out. I still am burnt out on social media, but I am in a mastermind group with like maybe 9 or 10 other top food bloggers, and we do a retreat every year. And a couple of years ago, when I was there, one of my friends was like, "You have to get on TikTok. You have to try it." And I'm like, "I don't know." So I did, and I was immediately addicted just as a user. So I knew that I had to put some content on there. And luckily we had a lot of content already that could very easily be repurposed for TikTok, because honestly, I just don't have time to create new content specifically for any one social media platform. I mean, there's so many out there and they all want original content, and that's basically impossible. But I do see the value in TikTok, and I've been having fun with it. It's a great new way to connect with people.
The recipe videos on there are amazing, because people don't want to sit down for that hour Martha Stewart video. It's the 20-second, just like quick cut. And I heard also when you were talking that you use Instagram Reels. Can you tell us a little bit about why you use Instagram Reels versus uploading it just as a normal video?
Yeah, so Instagram Reels is what Instagram is pushing right now. So basically, no other types of content are really doing or performing at all on Instagram. Same with Facebook. So anytime a social media platform comes out with a new feature, you have to go all in with that feature because that is what they're going to prioritize in the algorithm.
Mhm.
And when they first start, you can really make a lot of headway if you jump on that train early on. So again, luckily we have a lot of content that was easily repurposed, and I've been forcing myself to learn how to make content that's specific for Reels and TikToks, just that really short cell phone footage, rather
Right.
than the fully produced video type
Mhm.
content.
I'd love to get in your head a little bit and hear your thoughts on content strategy. So let's just say we're looking into August and there's nothing in our content strategy and what you're going to deploy on these platforms. What is your process like to just, even at ground level, figure out what I'm going to be posting to my channels?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I usually don't plan out that far ahead because I'm just trying to catch up
Right.
perpetually.
Or even if it's
But
just like a week in
yeah,
advance of
yeah.
content.
So what I usually do is I look at seasonality. So are there any holidays coming up?
Mhm.
Any major events that you want to address in our space? It's obviously around food. So if there's a holiday that's food specific, we try to make sure we have content about that, or that we're promoting content that we've created in the past that could relate to that.
Mhm.
And then I just on in addition to that, I just try to make sure I have a good variety of things. Like, have I been doing too many pastas lately? Maybe I should do a salad, things
Mhm.
like that. So I make sure there's always a good variety.
Amazing. Is there someone in your team who gives you that feedback, or do you just intuitively know, if you're posting something that's too heavy on salads and you need to spice it up a little?
I would say it's intuitive, except it's probably more like I'm reading the feedback and comments
Mhm.
and things from people, and they're like, "I'm tired of chicken," or "I don't want these heavy meals. It's hot outside." So it's probably not actually intuitive.
Mhm.
I'm just gleaning that from people's reactions.
So I want to ask one more question around your community management. So I reached out directly on Instagram and you actually responded, which I
Mhm.
still see as so hit and miss with brands. So
Yeah.
I'm just guessing you do respond to a lot of messages in direct message on Instagram, TikTok, wherever it is. Can you talk a little bit about why you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying before, just having that direct connection with your audience to make sure that you really understand them. Because if you do not have a deep understanding of your audience, you're not going to be able to market to them properly. You won't be able to help them understand why your content is the answer to their wants and needs.
Mhm.
So it's really important for me to read all that every day. Now, I don't respond to every single item because that would take all day, every day.
Mhm.
But if someone needs help with something, or there's a media inquiry like yours, things like that, I do respond. Yeah.
Mhm. And I can tell you, as someone who I messaged you and I told a half dozen people like, "Oh, you can't believe Budget Bytes responded back to me." So whether you know it too, that is creating, organic marketing for your brand, is I
Yeah.
guarantee everyone else is going and telling their friends like, "Oh, you can't believe Budget Bytes responded to me."
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. I mean, yeah, and honestly, I tried to stay away from content that's going to create a lot of direct messages because it is
Mhm.
very easy to get overwhelmed with them.
Right.
Like I remember when stories first came out on Instagram, and every now and then I would post just something like behind the scenes or a thought.
Mhm.
And if I posted something that anyone had an opinion on, I would instantly be flooded with hundreds of DMs. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I cannot do this. So I kind of had to learn the hard way, like what type of content works and what doesn't, just so I can stay on top
Mhm.
of that.
What is a current marketing opportunity that you're thinking about and facing?
So definitely those reels on every
Mhm.
single platform. So you've got reels on Facebook and
Oh, can you talk
Instagram.
a little bit about Facebook Reels? Because I've been
Sure.
noticing that on my newsfeed everywhere recently.
Yeah, so it's basically the same feature as what's in Instagram. And I think they're just still kind of slowly rolling it out to people. So I'm not sure if everyone has it yet. So they're basically trying to compete with TikTok. I don't think they're executing it well. So we'll see what happens with it. It's a little bit better on Instagram. I think it flows a little bit better with that platform, the way it's structured. On Facebook, it's kind of weird. But I was in like one of the pilot programs for that where I was like getting paid to create some reels. So that's where I got the practice. It kind of forced me to start creating original content in that format. And that was helpful. I'm just now starting to get back to doing that again as my schedule is opening up. But yeah, like I was saying before, anytime there's a new feature, you have to jump on it and go all in. And that's how you grow on those platforms. So for instance, when Reels was just introduced to Facebook and Instagram, anytime I had a reel that performed well, which was a lot of times since they're pushing that in the algorithm, my followers, like normally I'll get between 0 and 100 followers a day, but if I had a reel that was going viral, it would be more like 1,000 new followers a day. Yeah. So that's why you really need to jump on those new features when the platforms launch them.
So that's been your secret sauce to growing your community. When there's a new feature, you understand that and you create viral content. Is that?
Well, I've only learned that in the past 2 years. So it's definitely helped in the past 2 years. Yeah.
On the flip side, what's a marketing challenge you're experiencing right now? And it might be the same answer of Reels, but I'd love to hear what's a challenge you're experiencing.
Yeah, it is the same answer, but I'll explain it a little bit differently. It's not just Reels itself, but the fact that the platforms change so often. So you might learn one skill, and as soon as you learn it and get good at it, they launch something new and their algorithm changes completely. So all of a sudden, something that you were doing that was getting you 1,000 new followers a day is not working, and you're getting 0 new followers a day, and so that can be really frustrating, and it's definitely a roller coaster. It'll keep you on your toes. So sometimes I like that. Sometimes it's just tiring. Yeah.
Tell us about a marketing fail that you've experienced and why did it happen?
Yeah. So when was this? Maybe 3 years ago. We launched a set of PDF meal plans for purchase, and I was working with a marketing specialist at that time, and she was awesome. And she was like, okay, you need to do, all these Facebook lives, and my other clients are doing them and they're fantastic. So to put this in context, Facebook Live was the new feature at that time. So It basically was what Facebook Reels is now. It's what they were pushing. And I was like, oh, I really don't want to do Facebook Lives. I hate doing live stuff, but she talked me into it, and it was just an epic failure. It's just not me. So I think you always have to take into consideration who you are, what your strengths are, and try to work with that too. Don't try to do something that's just totally outside of your comfort zone. Yeah, it doesn't work well.
Are you on camera a lot during your content, or is it more of the food is the content?
I try to keep it exclusively food.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a really private individual. I don't like sharing my life on the internet with strangers. And so I don't tell stories about my life, and I don't want the brand to be about me. I want it to be about the food. It's there to help people and not to sell my life. So I stay off camera as much as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about a marketing campaign that you're really proud of. And if there's any insight that you could share on why it was a success, I'd love to hear that too.
Sure. So recently we added something to our weekly newsletter. So normally we do a weekly newsletter on Monday that highlights all of the content that was published during the previous week. And we have a huge email list, and I just knew there was a lot more room for us to utilize that it was just kind of going to waste. So we started a midweek newsletter, and each newsletter, it just highlights like a different theme of recipes. So one week it might be all noodle recipes. One week we might do like all cold salads for hot weather, things like that. And people have really been enjoying those and giving us great feedback. They say it's so helpful. And so not only is it great for the users because it's giving them the recipes that they need at that moment, again, that timely, really intense focus on their needs, but it helps us too because it's bringing a lot more traffic back to our website every week.
I want to go back to a point you made about you being on camera. And I think this is also a very interesting part of your brand that you typically see on social media channels. It's a little narcissistic with
Mhm.
influencer marketing, and it's someone's face just plastered everywhere in every single thing that they do. What advice do you have for people, though, of how do they figure out if they do want to go that route of being more that influencer in their faces everywhere, or going the approach of you, where it's much more about the problem you're solving and the content versus it's not the best show?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what type of personality you have. If you love to perform, if you love attention, then you would probably like doing more the style where the brand is more about you.
Mhm.
And I think that you can, I mean, that's really successful, people that do that. That's what the platforms actually want. So I think what I'm doing is it's kind of against the norm, and I could probably be more successful if I didn't do it this way. But I'm glad that I've been able to still find some success without giving into that, because it's just not for me.
Mhm.
Um, so
That's
I
a
think,
self-awareness people
yeah,
need to have.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
think if you are going to go the route of not being on your channel, and being more about like a faceless brand almost,
Mhm.
you have to still consider that the brand still needs a personality of its own.
Mhm.
So you don't have to share about yourself personally, but your brand does have to have a personality, almost like an avatar that the community can
Mhm.
connect with and relate to.
How would you describe your brand's personality?
Probably just down to earth, real, non-apologetic for who I am. Like we don't shame people for what types of food they want. Like if you want a frozen pizza, great, get it. We're not gonna tell people what they should and should
Mhm.
not eat, that sort of attitude. And just kind of like doing the best you can.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Amazing. You just described my girlfriend to a T.
Awesome. She sounds cool.
Uh, what is your vision of how marketing can be used for good? That's a theme of our podcast, is really wanting to give education and content related to what marketing in 2022 looks like compared to the Mad Men era. So I'd love to hear from you how can marketing be used for good?
I think if your focus with marketing is always how can you solve a problem for
Mhm.
people, then you can do a lot of good, because people are always going to be struggling with something. So if you can come up with a solution to that and offer it to the audience, and figure out how to communicate that to them, I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. Then you can do a world of good.
Mhm.
Just making people's lives easier is an incredibly satisfying thing.
Mhm.
That's probably the only reason I've been doing this as long as I have, because I get emails like, a couple times a week saying, you helped me through grad school, or when my husband lost his job, your recipes got us through. So just always trying to make sure that you're doing something that is going to benefit people, I think is a great way to use marketing for good.
Mhm. We've been talking a lot about the changing algorithms, new platforms that are emerging. And I'm sure if we did another interview, another 2 years, who knows if
Mhm.
Instagram Reels is even going to be a feature on the platform anymore.
Hopefully
Uh,
not.
so, in your opinion, how do you think marketing is going to evolve in the ensuing years, whether that's from the type of marketing, from a communication standpoint, technology, Web3? What's your vision of what we're going to be looking at in the next couple of years?
So I think what I see happening, it's already started, but I think it's going to go even further, is that social media platforms are going to become basically like the home shopping network.
Mm,
And so they've already started that in general, right? You see influencers selling products on social media, but I think it's going to go even further, and it's going to be almost like the home shopping network meets multi-level marketing. So you're going to see
mm,
every average everyday person, not influencers, also selling products, because all of the social media platforms right now are introducing ways that you can tag products in your posts, whether you're a business or a person, and you can earn revenue from that. So I think you're going to see a lot more everyday people who are not
mm,
necessarily influencers, um, using affiliate marketing on social media, and
mm.
everyone's going to be selling to everyone. It's going to be crazy.
Are you thinking about a Web3 at all for Budget Bytes?
So I know almost nothing about it, and I keep trying to read to figure it out, but I'm just like, I can't. It's too much information. But at the same time, I know, like I was saying earlier, you have to jump on those new
Mhm,
platforms and features early on, because every time you do, it's just almost like
mhm.
guaranteed success if you're an early adopter.
Until February, I knew nothing about Web3. I thought
Mhm.
NFTs were just the dumb monkey photos.
Yeah.
So I'm only 2 months or 3 months ahead in my understanding of it. But it's pretty remarkable about what's going to unfold in the next decade with that whole world. I'm
Wow.
at the point where I can tell you NFT stands for non-fungible token,
I know
but
that much too.
it doesn't go much past that still for me. So I'm in the
Yeah.
same boat as you of figuring this world out.
Yeah, I heard someone say that NFTs are like the Beanie Babies of Gen Z or something, or maybe they said millennials. I don't know, but
Uh,
that made me laugh.
that's the analogy. I heard that the board ape is the Beanie Baby. So essentially meaning that the board ape could be useless and go to zero.
Right.
But the idea of blockchain is going to be here forever in the same way that stuffed animals are still here and forever, but the Beanie Babies were just
Yeah,
a blip on the radar.
that makes sense. I like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
cool.
So this is our last question for today, and it's actually perfect knowing you and your blog and what you're all about. And the question is, what is the best purchase you made under $100 personally or professionally in the last 6 months, and why?
Okay, this is tough. I don't even remember what I buy. Okay, so I'm gonna make a confession. I have a really bad online shopping habit, and I do it. I do it in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, so my brain is not totally awake yet, which is very dangerous. And so all those ads in my feed get to me. I see some really cool stuff. So recently, I bought some flavored vinegars,
Mm,
and it's from a company called Acid League, and they're so good. So like, I mean, obviously they have like a regular apple cider vinegar that has maple and it tastes really good. There's like a citrus one, and then there's one that's made with like port grapes and it's amazing. And I like them so much that I just pour some over ice and then top it off with water, and it's so delicious. I'm buying more for sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor to speak with you, and thank you for appearing on the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.